Listen to me. You were not born to blend, and you were born to stand out. You were not created to tremble in fear. You were created to take territory. Some of you have been living like sheep, quiet, scared, waiting for permission, waiting for approval, waiting for somebody to validate what God already put inside you. But there is a lion in you, and a lion does not ask the forest for acceptance. A lion does not lower its roar to make sheep comfortable. A lion does not run when pressure comes. Pressure reveals the predator. You've been too quiet, too accommodating, too apologetic for your greatness. Tonight, something shifts. You will stop grazing in fields you were meant to rule. You will stop shrinking in rooms you were called to dominate. You will stop thinking small when your spirit is wired for victory. It's time to become a lion among sheep. Recognize the lion within you. Before you can roar in the world, you must first hear the sound of your own power echoing inside your spirit. Too many people walk through life unaware of who they truly are. They measure themselves by opinions, by failures, by past mistakes, by the limitations others projected onto them. But a lion cub raised among sheep may learn to bleat, may learn to graze, may learn to move with the herd, yet none of that changes its nature. Its DNA never stopped being royal. Its strength never disappeared. Its instinct never died. It was simply undiscovered. There is something in you that refuses to stay small, something in you that gets uncomfortable when you settle, something in you that feels restless when you accept average. That is not arrogance. That is identity knocking. That is greatness stretching. That is the lion within you pacing against the cage of fear and doubt. You were not designed to live timidly. You were not wired to shrink every time you enter a room. You were not created to constantly second guess your worth. The lion within you carries authority. It carries vision. It carries courage. And until you recognize it, you will keep playing roles that are beneath your calling. Recognition starts with awareness. You have to see yourself differently before the world will respond to you differently. If you see yourself as weak, you will move weak. If you see yourself as unworthy, you will accept crumbs. But when you recognize that there is strength in your mind, resilience in your spirit, and power in your voice, your posture changes. Your decisions change. Your standards change. The lion within you is revealed in pressure. When life hits you and you don't break, that's the lion. When people doubt you and you still push forward, that's the lion. When fear whispers and you step anyway, that's the lion. It has always been there. Every setback you survived was evidence. Every obstacle you overcame was proof. But recognition requires honesty. You must confront the small thinking you adopted. You must confront the fear you normalized. You must confront the excuses that kept you comfortable. A lion cannot rise while clinging to a sheep mentality. The transformation does not start with louder actions. It starts with deeper understanding. When you truly recognize the lion within, you stop apologizing for your ambition. You stop shrinking your dreams to make others comfortable. You stop pretending you don't want more. You begin to carry yourself with quiet confidence, not because you need applause, but because you know who you are. And once recognition happens, everything shifts. You no longer chase validation. You attract respect. You no longer wait for permission. You move with purpose. You no longer fear standing alone. You understand that royalty often walks by itself. The lion within you is not something you must create. It is something you must awaken. Stop seeking approval. The moment you start living for applause, you hand over the keys to your destiny. Approval is addictive. It feels good to be liked, to be accepted, to be affirmed. But when your decisions are driven by the need to be validated, you slowly lose yourself. Sheep look around before they move. They wait to see who agrees, who nods, who approves. But a lion does not survey the forest for permission to roar. It roars because that is its nature. Some of you have been shrinking your voice to keep the peace. You've been lowering your standards so you won't intimidate anyone. You've been editing your dreams so they don't sound too big. That is the trap of approval. It convinces you that belonging is more important than becoming. It whispers that fitting in is safer than standing out. But every time you dilute yourself to gain acceptance, you lose a piece of your authenticity. When you seek approval, you become a reflection of other people's expectations. You dress the way they want, speak the way they want, think the way they want, and eventually live the way they want. You become a performance instead of a person. And the tragedy is this: even after all that adjusting, it's still never enough. The crowd is fickle. What they praise today, they may criticize tomorrow. If your confidence is built on their applause, it will collapse under their silence. Freedom begins the moment you realize that not everyone is assigned to understand you. Not everyone is meant to clap for you. Not everyone will agree with your growth. And that's okay. Lions are not concerned with the opinions of sheep. They are focused on territory, on survival, on purpose. Their identity is not up for debate. There is power in being misunderstood when you know who you are. There is strength in being talked about when you are walking in truth. When you stop chasing approval, you start chasing alignment. You make decisions based on conviction, not consensus. You speak because it's right, not because it's popular. You move because you're called, not because you're cheered. Approval seeking often comes from fear of rejection, fear of isolation, fear of criticism. But rejection is not destruction. Isolation is not abandonment. Criticism is not cancellation. Sometimes those things are confirmation that you are no longer blending in. Growth will always disturb those who are comfortable. Elevation will always expose those who are stagnant. When you stop seeking approval, you reclaim your power. You walk into rooms differently. You don't scan faces for reactions. You don't over-explain your boundaries. You don't apologize for your ambition. You understand that your worth is not determined by votes. It is intrinsic. It is anchored. It is unshaken. And when you finally break free from the need to be validated, something incredible happens. You become bold. You become decisive. You become authentic. You stop performing and start living. You stop bending and start building. You stop asking, do they like me? And start asking, am I aligned with who I'm called to be? That is when the lion rises. Embrace isolation. There will be seasons in your life when the crowd gets quiet, when the phone stops ringing, when invitations become fewer and support feels distant. Most people panic in those moments. They assume something is wrong. They assume they are losing, but sometimes isolation is not punishment. It is preparation. A lion does not grow into its strength in the middle of noise. It develops power in the quiet. When you decide to rise, separation is inevitable. Not everyone can go where you are going. Not everyone has the capacity to understand your hunger, your discipline, your focus. Growth creates distance. Elevation creates space. And that space can feel uncomfortable if you have built your identity around constant connection and validation. Isolation forces you to confront yourself without distractions, without constant opinions, without the comfort of familiar voices. You are left alone with your thoughts, your fears, your ambitions. That can be intimidating, but it is in that solitude that clarity is born. You begin to hear your own voice instead of the echo of the crowd. You begin to see your vision without it being filtered through someone else's expectations. Sheep panic when separated from the herd. They feel exposed and vulnerable. But a lion understands that walking alone is part of its nature. It does not need constant reassurance. It does not depend on the movement of the group to determine its direction. It trusts its instinct. It trusts its strength. It trusts its purpose. Isolation also builds resilience. When you don't have a cheering section, you learn to motivate yourself. When you don't have constant affirmation, you learn to affirm yourself. When you don't have immediate support, you learn to rely on your inner conviction. That kind of strength cannot be borrowed. It must be built, and it is built in solitude. There will be nights when you question your path. There will be moments when you wonder if blending back in would be easier. It would be easier to return to familiar conversations, familiar habits, familiar comfort. But comfort does not create kings. Comfort does not sharpen claws. Comfort does not teach you how to survive in the wild. Pressure does. Silence does. Solitude does. In isolation, you refine your vision. You strengthen your discipline. You examine your weaknesses. You confront your insecurities. You strip away what is unnecessary. It is a pruning season, and pruning feels like loss before it looks like growth. But what is being removed is making room for expansion. When you embrace isolation instead of resisting it, your perspective changes. You stop interpreting it as abandonment and start recognizing it as alignment. The wrong voices fade so the right direction becomes clear. The noise diminishes so your focus intensifies. The loneliness transforms into leadership training. And when you emerge from that season, you are not desperate for attention. You are not hungry for approval. You are not shaken by opinions. You are steady. You are certain. You are strong because you have learned how to stand alone. A lion among sheep must first be comfortable walking by itself. Develop a roar. Every lion has one, but not every lion uses it. Your roar is more than volume. It is authority. It is the sound of certainty. It is the expression of conviction that comes from knowing who you are and what you stand for. A roar does not beg. A roar does not negotiate its existence. It declares presence. Too many people whisper their dreams. They speak about their goals with hesitation, as if they are asking permission to desire more. They soften their standards so they won't offend anyone. They dilute their opinions to avoid confrontation. Over time, that silence becomes identity. You forget how powerful your voice really is. Your roar is your boundaries. It is the ability to say no without guilt. It is the strength to say yes without fear. It is the confidence to express your vision even when others don't see it yet. When you don't develop your roar, people will test your limits. They will cross lines you never clearly drew. They will underestimate you because you never fully revealed yourself. A lion's roar can be heard from miles away. It shifts the atmosphere. It sends a message: I am here. I am not to be ignored. I will not be intimidated. That same energy exists in you. When you speak with clarity and confidence, rooms shift, conversations change, opportunities respond differently. It is not about arrogance. It is about alignment. When your voice matches your identity, there is power in it. Developing a roar requires courage. It requires you to overcome the fear of judgment. Some people will call you too bold. Some will say you've changed. Some will feel uncomfortable with your confidence. But that discomfort is often the sound of their expectations being disrupted. You cannot live your life trying to keep everyone comfortable. Growth will always make noise. Your roar is also consistency. It is not loud one day and silent the next. It is not strong in private and weak in public. It is steady. It is firm. It carries the same conviction whether one person is listening or 1,000. That consistency builds respect. People may not always agree with you, but they will recognize strength when they see it. There is a difference between noise and a roar. Noise is reactive. It is emotional without direction. A roar is intentional. It comes from deep within. It is controlled power. It is knowing when to speak and when silence speaks louder. A lion does not roar at everything. It roars when it matters. When you develop your roar, you stop allowing life to happen to you. You begin to shape it. You advocate for yourself. You defend your time. You protect your peace. You pursue your vision with boldness. You stop shrinking to fit into spaces that were never designed for your expansion. And once your roar becomes natural, you no longer need to prove yourself. Your presence communicates before you even speak. Your confidence becomes felt. Your standards become clear. Your direction becomes undeniable. A lion among sheep does not blend in quietly. It carries a sound that reminds the forest who it is. Hunt with focus. A lion does not run wildly across the savannah chasing every movement in the grass. It studies, it observes, it chooses its target carefully, then locks in with precision. Energy is too valuable to be wasted on distractions. Power without direction is chaos, but power with focus is dominance. Many people fail not because they lack talent, but because they lack concentration. They start one thing, then switch to another. They get excited about a goal, then abandon it when something shinier appears. They confuse motion with progress. But a lion understands patience. It can wait for the right moment. It can endure discomfort. It can ignore smaller prey because it has identified what truly matters. Focus requires discipline. It means saying no to opportunities that do not align with your greater objective. It means resisting the urge to respond to every opinion, every trend, every distraction. The world is loud. Notifications, Comparisons, expectations, and endless options pull at your attention. If you are not intentional, your vision will become fragmented. When a lion hunts, its body, eyes, and instincts are aligned. There is no divided attention. There is no hesitation. That same alignment must happen within you. Your thoughts, habits, and actions must point in the same direction. If your mouth says you want success, but your habits chase comfort, you are divided. If your vision is big, but your discipline is weak, you are divided. Focus eliminates that division. There will always be easier paths. There will always be shortcuts that promise quick rewards. But lions do not survive on convenience. They survive on commitment. Sometimes a hunt is long. Sometimes it requires endurance. Sometimes you miss and must try again. But quitting is not an option when your eyes are fixed on the prize. Focus also means emotional control. You cannot allow frustration to push you into reckless decisions. You cannot let fear cause you to retreat when progress feels slow. A lion does not abandon the hunt because of one failed attempt. It recalibrates. It adjusts its strategy. It remains locked in. Distraction is the enemy of greatness. Every time you allow yourself to be pulled off course, you delay your own breakthrough. Every time you chase something outside your purpose, you dilute your power. But when you narrow your attention, something powerful happens. Your efforts compound. Your skills sharpen. Your confidence builds because you see consistent progress. Hunting with focus changes how you move through life. You wake up with intention. You manage your time with purpose. You protect your energy fiercely. You understand that not every battle deserves your attention. Not every opportunity deserves your pursuit. You are selective, strategic, and steady. When you move this way, people may think you are intense. They may say you are too serious or too driven. But intensity directed toward purpose creates results. It creates momentum. It creates mastery. A lion among sheep is not scattered. It is locked in. And when you learn to hunt with that level of focus, success stops being accidental and starts becoming inevitable. Lead, don't follow. There is a fundamental difference between reacting to life and directing it. Sheep move based on what the one in front of them does. If the herd turns, they turn. If the herd runs, they run. There is comfort in that kind of existence because responsibility is shared. Decisions are outsourced. Risk feels smaller when everyone is moving together. But a lion does not wait for consensus. It does not look over its shoulder for approval before taking a step. It moves with intention, and others adjust to its presence. Leadership begins internally before it ever becomes visible externally. It starts with self-control. If you cannot lead your emotions, your habits, and your thoughts, you will struggle to lead anything else. A lion's dominance is not chaos, it is controlled strength. In the same way, true leadership is not loud or reckless. It is steady, disciplined, and decisive. When you choose to lead, you accept responsibility. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop pointing fingers at people who disappointed you. You stop waiting for ideal conditions. Instead, you ask, what can I do with what I have right now? Leaders create momentum even in limitation. They do not need perfect environments to make progress. They adapt, adjust, and advance. Following trends is easy. Echoing popular opinions is easy. Agreeing with the majority to avoid conflict is easy. But leadership requires courage. It requires you to stand firm when your view is unpopular. It requires you to speak when silence would be safer. It requires you to act when others hesitate. That kind of boldness sets you apart. Leading also means setting standards. You decide how you will be treated. You decide the quality of work you will produce. You decide the level of discipline you will maintain. When you raise your standards, you elevate your life. Sheep adapt to the lowest common denominator. Lions raise the bar and force the environment to rise with them. Influence is a byproduct of authentic leadership. You do not have to force people to follow you when your life demonstrates clarity and conviction. People are drawn to certainty. They are inspired by those who move with direction. When you consistently show up with integrity and focus, others notice. Some may resist at first. Some may criticize. But over time, consistency earns respect. Leadership does not mean dominating others. It means mastering yourself and guiding with vision. It means serving through strength, not ego. It means creating paths instead of waiting for them. When obstacles appear, leaders do not freeze. They assess, they strategize, they act. There will be moments when leading feels lonely. There will be times when you wish someone else would take responsibility. But every time you choose initiative over passivity, growth over comfort, courage over conformity, you step further into your identity. A lion among sheep does not blend into the movement of the crowd. It defines direction. It shapes the atmosphere. It sets the pace. And when you fully embrace that role, you stop drifting through life and start designing it. So hear me and hear me clearly. You have grazed long enough. You have played small long enough. You have dimmed your light, lowered your roar, shrunk your vision, and apologized for your power long enough. But something shifted tonight. The fear that used to paralyze you, it just lost its grip. The approval you used to chase, it just lost its power. The crowd you were afraid to outgrow, they just became witnesses to your evolution. Because you finally understand something, you are not a sheep trying to become brave. You are a lion who forgot who you were. And when a lion remembers, mountains move. Atmospheres change. Territories shake. You don't need permission to be powerful. You don't need validation to be valuable. You don't need a herd to confirm your identity. You were born with claws for a reason. You were born with a roar for a reason. You were born with vision for a reason. So stop grazing in fields that can't sustain your greatness. Stop shrinking in rooms that were built to contain you. Stop negotiating with fear like it has authority over your destiny. Stand up in your spirit, square your shoulders, lift your head, and when you walk out of this room, don't walk out as who you were. Walk out knowing that the forest doesn't intimidate you anymore because you finally realized you are not in the forest with sheep. The forest is in there with a lion. Now roar.